So as I mentioned earlier, as part of Tororo, we've created a few widgets to help people use the IDI. And how this came about is I was teaching a course on the IDI, might have been 2 Februaries ago, actually. And inevitably someone asked the question, are there data about this in the IDI? And maybe I answered them, maybe I didn't, I can't remember. But afterwards I thought, this is silly. We should be able to get access to all the variables in the IDI, just the variables, nothing about them, just the variables, and export them and create some sort of way to search among them. And this is exactly what this is. Basically what we've got here, I can, if I'm interested, search for all the variables that contain the word iwi. And it'll come up with, what we've got is data supply agencies. So that's like Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Kāinga Ora, those sorts of things. Then collections. Underneath that, that's a collection of various things. So this, you see there, IDI sensitive population dwellings. And a collection may have several data sets underneath it. And underneath the data sets as well, so we've got 5 data sets there that each contain the word iwi in them. And then a number of variables, 267. And sometimes that's iwi because you're interested in iwi, and sometimes it's Kiwi Saver or something like that, because iwi is part of Kiwi. Where we've got a little green dot here, it means not only can we tell you the variable that's there, but there's a little bit of metadata about it as well. And that metadata is the same metadata that anyone who uses the IDI can get access to within the IDI, I think, more or less. So it's as good or as bad as that is, but no better, if that makes sense. So iwi affiliation 2018 census, that's a collection. Okay, so this is from ad hoc, I think. And so digging in there, I can then look at the particular variable it's got and describes a bit about it. Ad hoc loads of iwi affiliation data from census 2018 includes imputation of weight adjustments to mitigate non-response. Blah, 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 blah. So you can find out more and more about the variable. Okay, what's a good example here? I don't know, MOH. You can search for, you know, search for 2 different things as well. MOH farm, to give you a very, very bland example. Not bland example. Why is that not working? Okay. Anyway, you can search for 2 different things there. It should do the and between the 2. I think because I was, let's try that. And I should be able to do something like that. Oh, I know what that is actually. You know, I should be able to get to the farms collection that way. Typically, you should be able to put in 2 things there, and it'll search for summing a string that contains both those 2 things. There are some issues, I think, with recognizing underscores. It's fixed now. Okay, you reckon I should be able to do this then? I know it's fixed and where it's not. Okay, anyway, you should be able to search for those sorts of things. There's ongoing improvements that we can make, obviously. And well, so quick stats is probably a good one as well. This gives you a sense of all the variables that we've got in there. Okay, so in terms of the refreshers, there is something like, should give you a total there actually. But the number of variables that you can find within each refresh and the number and percentage for which there are metadata. And the same for data sets, okay? So you can see that we have metadata available for more data sets than we have variables, which means some data sets have a few number of variables there may be metadata for. Okay, that's pretty much it, really. You can go to the help menu and tell you how to do things. And it talks about the structure. As I said, we've got the data supply agencies, collections below that, data sets below that, and then variables. And you can select at each level as well. So if we go back here, I can just select within data sets. If I choose this, it's 960. And if I just want to select search for, go back to our iwi example. It should search just within that and give us the 5 data sets there. But basically, that's it. And we would like feedback on this. Where's that in the about? Yeah, so for IDI users out there, or the other thing about this is prospective IDI users as well. One of the annoying things was if you were looking at using the integrated data infrastructure, you never had a really good idea about what was in there until you got in there, which seemed the wrong way to go about doing things. So in conjunction with Stats New Zealand, who helped us get all the variables out and given really good feedback on the contents here, we've put this together, got released to some fanfare last week with a message that went out to all IDI users. And we basically would like people to use it and give us feedback on how it's going. If it's questions about what the app's doing or not doing, you can email that address there. If it's a question about, hey, how come this metadata file isn't in there? Or I thought there was metadata for this, then go straight to access to microdata, and Catherine and other people will answer your questions for you. Any questions from the audience on this? Yes.
So is this the link that you go to?
Yeah, so the link, you can just see it there, idisearch.toroto.org.
One that is all the details of the I'm not sure what the website is called, but it seems like it's doing the same thing. If you don't know the variable names, search it.
There's you mean the Data Info Plus?
Yes.
Okay. Caleb Stone can talk more about the difference between this and Data Info Plus. This is more searchable, I think. That is more structured as a series of data sets or data collections that are in the IDI. And again, Caleb will talk more, could talk more about this. He sort of works with Stats New Zealand. It's got a very complicated data management platform or something. Eileen maybe can answer that question.
So you can tell this variable is available at what you refresh.
Oh, good point, actually, yeah.
It tells you which refresh is available at, which is very useful because sometimes this variable is new and available in this location. That means when you do research, you cannot go back to, say, for example, in 20 October or something like that. That's one thing. And the other thing is you can, I think it's under the data, under table, it tells you that you can perhaps use the UID in this table to link to other data tables. That's another functionality of the search type that I really like.
That's a good point. So sorry, people may not have heard that, but yes, one thing that I should have mentioned, the functionality there is once you click down to the variable level, it tells you the refreshes that variable is available. Now, one thing that there's a couple of things about that. One thing that has happened is sometimes a variable used to be called something and now it's called something else. And at one stage, I went through and meticulously tried to find what those variables were and do the match between the two. That's not there at the moment, but you can certainly see, and the classic example of this is MSD, I think, and others changed their sex variables to gender variables. Same variable, but they just changed the name of it. And then, so the sex variable you see is available in the older refreshes and the gender variable is available in the newer refreshes. Going forward, again, talking to Caleb, what we might like to do is have the name of the variable a kind of characteristic of the variable that has its own unique identifier. So you can see where that identifier has been, that variable has been there all this time, but its name has changed across the from at one refresh and then kept that name thereafter. And the other thing, and I don't know if I can get to one of these, but in some cases, depending on the metadata, you can see what the linking variable is for that variable. So for individual level variables, it's typically the SNZ UID. But for other variables, census would be a classic example of this. We've got family variables that are linked by the family ID and other things as well. You can see that in there. This is all a function of the metadata, which isn't our responsibility. It's Stats New Zealand's and the agencies that provide the data to them. But we promise to mimic the best metadata that are available there, which isn't quite also what Data Info Plus does, to loop back to kind of your question.
It's also linked to the validation mode, which means it tells you what a variable is about. So for example, if there is a sensor, what 35, it tells you, I think it tells you what 01 means for this variable, what 02 means for that variable.
For some, yes, that's my ideal world where the meta. So this is in some cases in the metadata, you go to a variable and you actually know what 0, 1, 2. Classic thing is I still can never remember exactly whether 1 is male or 2 is male when I'm using the sex variable from the personal details table. So that sort of stuff, ideally, this is a metadata thing. So in some cases that does exist in the metadata, in some cases it doesn't. Going forward, I'd like it, not my job in a way, but it would be nice if it existed wherever that sort of stuff was available. A niece who's helped with this a lot was going to say something, I think.
Yeah. For other area that I think of it as continuity and all those directions on the
Okay, so Anissa's point for those who couldn't hear it on Zoom was that Data Info Plus is up to date for Stats New Zealand data sets, but not for other data sets. And this is updated from the wiki, which is up to date as it exists for all the data collection, data supplying agencies. Alex.
Is there any download function available?
Data link function.
No, download actually. So once
that's a really good point. We haven't built in that functionality, but that would be a really simple thing to add the functionality for.
So the second question is that can we just select which variable we're trying to export and download that in a file, then we can share for collaboration?
Yeah, I think that. Thank you. Someone take a note of that. I think that's something that is our job actually at the app end. So our Tom's job who put this together. But yes, because ultimately behind this is a couple of spreadsheets in a way, or a spreadsheet and then a link to all the metadata tables. So there's no reason why there couldn't be some outputs from here that would be useful. Very good point. Because the other thing here is this exists everywhere. You can get to this outside of the data lab. And so you can download it and do something with it, whereas you couldn't if it was just within the data lab.
So is this a work in progress or this is the final?
Well, this is a, what's it called? 2.0 at the moment?
0.319.
0.319. It is, well, both is the answer to your question. So it's always going to be a work in progress, but it's doing what it says on the box at the moment. You can search for IDI variables and some metadata information. But the reason I'm telling you guys about it is just so you can give feedback. Use it, give feedback. Improvements like that are fantastic. You know, be able to download stuff. Anything else you think, hey, wouldn't it be great if it did this? When I first thought of this, it was really just let's search for IDI variables. Once we got something working, which is a while ago now, we realized this is could be a one-stop shop for metadata, which wasn't the original plan, but I think it's a great plan. So that's one way in which it has shifted from what it was to what it is now. So anything else you'd like it to be, let us know. Or email that address on there. To ARIA, looking drifting towards Anise ARIA. Is that like the the classification database? Yeah. Probably no reason it couldn't. For some, you'd have to know the variables to link. There'd have to be a very good data or something, very good CSV or something that says if you're on this variable, it can be found in ARIA, which, yeah, but I agree. So in other words, what's the ethnicity standard? What's standard classification of occupations? Yeah, I agree. That would fix my gender problem, exactly, yeah. Yeah. My problem with identifying what's 1 and what's 2, yeah.
There are 2 questions in the chat.
Oh yes, chat questions, yeah.
Can anyone mine this data set or do we need to obtain permission first?
No permission needed. The whole point is anyone in the world can access this and find out what's in the IDI. Eileen, sorry, just for follow up on that.
well, which means when you want to search for what this variable means, you don't have to go to download finding the data dictionaries from the wiki and then download that and then scroll down 10 pages to go to the variable to see what this variable means. You can just type in your variable name in there and then you will see what this variable means.
Yes, so the answer to the question is no, you do not have to need permissions, but if you are in the IDI, it will be made available. It's not available now because of the permissions to get to that website. So it's going to become a, what's it called? A website that's available within the IDI because it's very locked down. Whitelist, that's the word. Yeah. Sorry, and the second question was?
How is ethnicity prioritized? What about people who are coded with 2 or more ethnic codes?
I could attempt to answer that question, but it's not related to the app. Ethnicity in most places, and Stats New Zealand endorses this, is based on total count. So you can identify, it's based on your self-identification. So what ethnicities you identify with. So you could identify with 1 or 20, but practically only as many as 6. So I'll give my personal view here. I do not like prioritization of ethnicity for various reasons. It is still favored in Ministry of Health in some cases. You saw that throughout COVID. They gave the prioritized ethnicity for things. I think it makes certain groups invisible, especially Pacific groups. It's not about the app, by the way. This is my personal view here at the moment. But insofar as there is a prioritization variable in there that someone may have put in there, which may be in an ad hoc table, I'm not sure, you can find it. The other thing it does, they do prioritization for level 2. So if you've got lots of Pacific ethnicities, Tokelau, you call Tokelauan. So Tokelauan is the top of the prioritization within the Pacific ethnicities.
Yeah,
which
realm countries are level 2, but Tuvalu is not.
Yeah, and as much as I like Tokelauans, it's kind of like why. But anyway, so that's not about the app, but it's about ethnicity, how it's classified, and Barry Milne's views on it.
Last question. Could we see the data set linking schema as well?
Dataset linking schema. You mean how? I suppose I can. I think I know what that means. So, for instance, it comes back to the Eileen's point about you can see the linking variable there, which we do show sometimes where it exists in the metadata. So this is a classic example would be like the link between the mesh block table and the NZ dep or something like that. So I suppose we could have several schema in there where that displayed that, but they'd be flat, I would think. So in other words, they'd just be like a picture of how things link to each other. Yeah, that's possible.
We're looking for new ideas. So you said you publishes a lot of the definitions about the defined variable.
Yeah, we're working with SWA people.
We created if we could end up in that white list to set 3 variables.
Okay, we'll talk. Yes, there was discussion earlier today, in fact, about the code modules that are being developed, which SWA is part of. They're doing more than that, or at least they're doing that and other things. So, I mean, the functionality has been created. If it's the same thing or if it's a different thing doing the same job, then that's possible. And we can talk to the SWA people who we're meeting on Thursday about this. Hey, Michael.
Is the search function just based on the variable name, or is it taking into account the description?
It's everything, yeah. So that's actually why when I searched, crikey, where is it? Where's the search bit? Here we go. So that census population dwellings, you don't see that under the collection name, but when you go there, there's going to be iwi here somewhere. There.
We were talking about the code module, Eric Frampton, I think from MD was leading that, and they've got definitions not just provided by SWA, but different agencies, so we might be the question about.
Yeah, I have mentioned, I was loosely involved with that group. I have mentioned that to Eric. And again, this is on Stats New Zealand's radar as well. It's something we discussed earlier today. So something may develop along those lines, probably where there's a table in there that contains those code modules, then they exist as a variable, then they treat it exactly the same way as all other variables are treated in there. Hi, yep.
Just another way that it could be called to organize the metadata instead of having a search function or like a browse function grouped by different topics or categories. So if you're interested in doing research on health data, that you can browse all the different tables and agencies with health data in it.
Yeah, so you can at the moment browse the collections and come down to Ministry of Health, which is not on page 1. So IDI, so there's various Ministry of Health ones. So if you're interested in, for instance, mortality data, you go there, or the data supplier, but that's at the level of the collection and the data set and the variables. I suppose there's a way you could browse the metadata as well, in that same way. So that might be possible. Hope someone's jotting all these things down, by the way.
It's all recorded.
It's recorded.
Yes, yeah. I realize I'm chewing into you guys' lunch as well at the moment. But anyway, yes.
Super quick. Any maybe long-term plans to include maybe summary statistics, mean, median, that kind of thing? Would make Monte Carlo really easy. You wouldn't have to go data lab.
That we haven't really discussed. I think there might be more disclosure issues with that have to be sort of sorted out. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's not, and it won't be for me to say. It'll be someone from Stats New Zealand to say whether it's possible. In some respects, that would be so ideal, wouldn't it? And I can see, again, my personal view, I can see a way that could be done without any disclosure issues at all. But I can also see nervousness on the side of Stats New Zealand, and for good reason. Nervousness on the side of Stats New Zealand there.
I think the easiest way would be to have it in the lab and not outside on the website. So the version that you've got in the lab of that.
Yeah.
Having some of the stats or just a few stats of the table within the lab environment would land well with when you're getting going to store the concept. And the people accessing it can, get out of the lab.
So the response there is that this might work better if it was in the lab. So if you've already got through the hurdles to get to the IDI, get into the data lab, you can actually see those descriptives at that point then. And also, sorry, thank you to Caitlin as well, who helped us out a while back now to get these, well, not all that long ago actually, to get the list of variables out of the IDI before Anise and Caleb came on the scene and helped out. Anyway, thank you very, very much.